This week in social group, we worked on listening and becoming a better, stronger listener. I was super surprised because when I introduced the topic, kids were actively disappointed. Like a couple of them were like, boo. I said, why are we booing listening? Last week we talked about noticing, we're talking about social skills. It makes sense that we'd be talking about listening. And then it occurred to me that kids are so used to hearing about listening from the perspective of discipline. Are you listening to me? Why won't you listen to me? You need to learn how to listen better. So I had to let them know pretty quickly, so as to not lose my audience, that that wasn't the kind of listening we'd be focusing on. I asked the kids what parts of our body are most active when we're listening. It was a pretty quick route to get ears. A lot of people went right there. Though with a little bit of pushing, kids remembered that we also listen with our brains because we have to think about what people are saying. And also that we listen with our eyes. We notice so much about a person's message, not only in what they're saying and the tone that they're saying it, but how they look, how their body is, how their face is, the emotion. A lot of the things that we talked about the week before in noticing are very much parts of listening. One of my younger groups was very quick to point out that we also listen with our heart, because if we're being a good listener, we have to care about the person and their message. I asked the kids if they thought that it was possible to be a really strong listener without using your ears. Impulsively, they said, no, of course you need your ears. But then at a pause point, they realized, a lot of people do listen without their ears, and we can learn a lot from the deaf community about this. So we watched 2 clips from the movie Coda that tell the story of a teenage girl who was born to a family who are all profoundly deaf, and she used a lot of sign language to speak as a child, but then also did use her spoken voice, and she was a hearing person. So we talked a little bit about some of the complications of that and how it probably helped her to become a much more effective listener. We watched 2 scenes with Ruby, one with her mom and one with her dad, and I'll link them both below. And what we really paid attention to was how Ruby and her parents listened to each other without the use of their ears. We all walked away realizing that we really can be much, much more effective listeners if we use more than our ears, because everybody agreed that Ruby and her parents were excellent at listening to each other. And a lot of kids said that if they felt listened, if their parents listened to them the way that Ruby's parents listened to her, they would feel really pretty heard. In a couple of my parent groups, when I was going through this lesson, I heard some polite questions like, okay, this is all well and good, but back to the beginning, how do we get our kids to listen to us? So a couple of little tips there. It is very important for us to remember as parents that while we are asking something of our children, they are also doing things that are important to them. So a classic example is when your kid is maybe busy with a device, watching TV, something that's distracting their attention, and we need them to listen to us. More often than we should, as parents, we often approach this as, get over here and listen to me right now. Think about how that goes when the roles are reversed, though. Maybe you're on a phone call, a Zoom call, maybe you're having a conversation with your partner, and a child just busts in and demands our attention right there. It's never really met with warmth or openness from us. And while I guess it's arguable that the demands that we're putting on our kids are more important or immediate than their video game, we can get a lot of money in the bank, a lot of mileage by giving our kids the same courtesy we expect from them. So a couple of lines that I've found have been very helpful are, how much more time do you need to finish that round? How much more time do you think it might take? When is a good time to talk about XYZ? And surprisingly, kids are very responsive and very reasonable. I think sometimes as parents, we worry that we're going to lose our authority if we don't demand. The opposite is true. when we approach our kids with respect and understanding that they also want their time respected, we get a lot better results.